I thought I knew Lena. I thought we were in this together. Every morning, I woke up, scraping the last coins from my wallet, thinking about how I could make life better for both of us. "Coffee's on me today," I said, holding the tiny cup I bought from the corner stall. Lena smiled, tucking a strand of hair behind her ear. "You're always doing too much," she laughed. I shrugged. "I want us to have more someday." "Trust me, I'm working on it." "More like working yourself to death," she teased, leaning against the counter. "You're always exhausted." I grinned. "I'll handle it." "I have to." Those words felt honest then, full of hope. But I didn't know hope could be stolen in an instant. I was coming home from a double shift, shoulders heavy, when I heard laughter from our apartment. That laugh, it wasn't mine, it wasn't friendly. My stomach twisted as I crept toward the door. I pressed my ear to the wood. "And he actually thinks he'll ever be anything?" Lena's voice floated through the crack. Sharp, cruel. My heart stopped. "What?" another voice said. Deep, confident. "You don't think he'll ever get anywhere?" Lena giggled. "Please. Look at him, barely scraping by, working himself to death for what? For me? For me." The words sank into me like ice water. I felt numb, every breath heavy. "No, it can't be," I whispered to myself. "I deserve better," Lena continued, voice softer, almost intimate. "Someone who can give me what I want. You know, like Rayanne." I couldn't move. My knees gave out, but I held myself up against the wall. Rayanne. The name tasted like betrayal. Rich, handsome, untouchable. And she wanted him. Not me. Not after everything I did for her. I stumbled inside, making the mistake of letting them see me. Lena froze. "You're home early," she said, her voice suddenly careful. I held up my hand, my voice trembling. "Lena, what are you saying? What did I just hear?" "Oh, come on," she said, rolling her eyes. "Don't act like you weren't expecting this." "Expecting what?" "That you'd laugh at me behind my back? That you'd plan to leave me for him?" My throat tightened. "It's not about you being bad," she said smoothly. "It's just, you'll never be enough. You're too small, too poor, too ordinary. I want someone bigger, better. Rayanne is that someone." I staggered back, gripping the doorframe. "Bigger? Better? Lena. I've given everything to you. My nights, my dreams, my hope." "Your hope?" she laughed, and it was like a knife twisting. "Your hope is pathetic. You're living in a fantasy. I'm just living in reality." I felt my hands shake. Reality? This isn't reality. This is betrayal. She shrugged, almost bored. "Call it what you want. I'm doing what's best for me." I couldn't speak. My chest ached, my head spun. All the dreams I carried, our plans, our talks about the future, shattered. I saw it now. The lies, the smiles, the fake encouragement. Every "I love you" she whispered had been a trap. Why? I managed, voice cracking. "After everything, why?" "Why?" she echoed, smirking. "Because I deserve more. I'm not going to stay stuck with someone who can't even give me a life worth living." I laughed bitterly, shaking my head. "I've been working every day, every night, sacrificing, hoping, for you. And this is how you repay me? You think I owe you anything?" she said, stepping closer. "You're weak. You were weak when I met you, and you'll always be weak. The words dug into my soul. Weak. I had always known I was struggling, yes. But I'd thought love would cover that our bond would be stronger than money or status. I was wrong. I clenched my fists. You're heartless. Heartless, she laughed again. No. I'm realistic. You're the one who's blind, clinging to dreams that don't matter to anyone but you. I felt rage bubble up, a fire I hadn't known I could summon. Do you even know what I've done for you? The jobs I took, the hours I sacrificed, the blood, sweat, and nights I spent thinking about us? And you just throw it away? I'm not throwing anything away, she said smoothly. I'm choosing what's best for me. You can stay here and cry over your so-called love, or you can let me leave. Your choice. Tears stung my eyes. I didn't know if I was angry or devastated. I wanted to scream, to hit, to make her feel what I was feeling. But words failed me. You really planned all this? I whispered. I didn't plan anything. I just saw my chance, she said casually. And I took it. You should do the same. Look after yourself. You're nothing without me anyway. Nothing without me. Her words echoed, ringing in my ears like a death knell. Every ounce of self-worth I had carried crumbled. I couldn't bear it. I turned, pacing the tiny room, trying to burn away the images of her smiling with someone else, laughing at me behind my back. I loved you, I said. I gave you everything I had. Everything. And it wasn't enough, she said, shrugging like it was simple math. Don't blame me. You're the one who couldn't be enough. It's not my fault. I collapsed onto the couch, burying my face in my hands. The room spun. I felt a nausea I'd never felt before, a betrayal that cut deeper than any physical wound. I looked up, my eyes red, voice shaking. So, this is it? After all these years, this is all we had? She didn't answer. She just turned and walked toward the door. Goodbye, she said. Goodbye? I repeated, disbelief thick in my voice. You can't just leave like that. Don't you care about me at all? She paused, glancing back. Care? I cared enough to be honest. And honestly, you weren't enough for me. That's all you need to know. The door closed behind her. Silence. Only the ticking of the clock. My heart ached so badly I thought it might stop. Every plan I had, every dream, every hope I nurtured for us, it was gone. I stayed on that couch for hours, staring at the wall, hearing her voice in my head. I could feel myself changing in that moment. Something inside me snapped, not just pain, but a realization. I couldn't let myself stay broken. Not by her. Not by anyone. I whispered to the empty room, I'll show you. I'll show everyone that I'm worth more than this. But the fire in me wasn't clean. It wasn't just ambition. It was fury, heartbreak, humiliation, and betrayal all mixed into a burning need to never be weak again. I had loved Lena with everything I had, and she had torn me apart with words. But in that destruction, I found a seed of transformation. My world had collapsed, yes. But from these ashes, I would rise. Not for her. Not for anyone. For me. And as I sat alone in that apartment, broken and betrayed, I finally understood everything had changed forever. The man who had been meek, loving, and hopeful was gone. In his place, someone new would emerge. Someone unyielding. Someone who would never be laughed at again. I didn't know who that person was yet. But I would find out. And the world, or maybe just Lena, would see him. I sat on the curb outside my apartment, watching the dim streetlights flicker. Everything felt empty. Lena was gone, Rayon probably smirking somewhere in his luxury car, and I had nothing. I thought about calling someone, anyone, but my phone felt useless. Like my life. "Hey, you okay, man?" a voice called out. I looked up to see a kid from the building, maybe 17, holding a basketball. I shook my head. "No," I said flatly. "Not okay at all." "You look like you just lost your best friend, or something worse," he said. He crouched, resting the ball under his arm. "Want to talk about it?" I laughed bitterly. "Talk? There's nothing to talk about." She left. For him. And I'm nothing. Worthless. The kid frowned. "Who?" "Lena," I muttered. "And Rian." The words felt heavy on my tongue. They took everything from me." "Everything?" he asked, voice curious, careful. "Even your pride?" I looked at him and wanted to scream. "I don't have any left," I said. "Everything I had, my hope, my plans, my life, gone. Just gone." "You sure it's all gone?" he asked softly. "Maybe some of it's just buried. Not destroyed." I shook my head violently. "No. It's destroyed. You don't get it." She laughed at me. Mocked me behind my back. Told me I'd never be enough. "Sounds rough," the kid said. "But maybe you just need to get out of this place. Clear your head." I scoffed. "Clear my head? My head is full of ashes." He shrugged. "Then let it burn. Maybe you'll find something new in the flames." I wanted to curse him, to yell, to throw him off the curb. But instead, I sank lower. He had a point. Nothing left here was mine anymore. Lena had taken it all, even my dignity. I wandered the streets aimlessly, my hands shoved deep in my pockets. Every laugh from a couple, every car that passed me in warmth, felt like a dagger. I passed a cafe and smelled the coffee, imagining her there with him, laughing, smiling. I almost puked. "Stop it," I whispered to myself. "Stop imagining. Stop her. Stop everything." I didn't. I couldn't. The images kept coming, relentless. I finally ended up at a small park bench, sitting in silence. My phone buzzed. It was my friend, Ayan. "Hey man," he said when I picked up. "Where are you?" "Out," I muttered. "Doesn't matter." "Don't sound good," he said, cautious. "You okay?" I laughed bitterly. "Okay? I'm pathetic, Ayan. She left me for someone rich. I'm broke, worthless, and humiliated. I don't know how to go on." "You're alive," he said. "That's a start." I stared at the ground. Alive. Sure. But what's the point? What's the point of being alive when everything you worked for, everything you hoped for, is gone? Ayan was silent for a moment. "I get it," he said finally. "I really do. But maybe you can rebuild. You're smarter than this, you've got guts. You just need a plan." "A plan?" I muttered. "Do you think a plan will fix her laughing at me? Fix her telling me I'm nothing?" "No," he said bluntly. "But maybe a plan will fix you. That's all you can fix right now." I hung up, feeling empty but strangely unsettled. Ayan had a point. I couldn't stay like this forever. But I didn't know how to start. Not with my pride in ruins. Not with my heart bleeding. Not with the constant echo of her voice telling me I wasn't enough. I walked past a streetlight and stopped. I saw a figure sitting on a bench. Old man, hunched over, a cup of tea in his hand. He looked at me and gestured. "Sit," he said simply. I hesitated. Then I did. "You look lost," he said, voice soft. "Broken." "Yeah," I admitted. "Broken." "Tell me," he said. "What happened?" I laughed bitterly, then stopped. I couldn't laugh. She left me. For someone else. I overheard her. She mocked me. Said I'd never be enough. He nodded slowly. "I see." She was everything to me," I said, my voice shaking. "I worked every day to make her happy. I sacrificed everything. And she threw me away like I was trash." The old man took a sip of his tea. "Sometimes people show their true selves in the cruelest ways. Painful, yes. But also enlightening." "Enlightening?" I repeated, incredulous. "How is it enlightening to find out someone you love doesn't care about you at all?" "It teaches you who you are," he said quietly. "You think you knew yourself. You thought love was enough. But now, you know you have to be enough for yourself. And that's powerful." I stared at him. "Enough for myself?" "Yes," he said. "Start there. Build yourself, not for her, not for anyone else. But for you. Everything else will follow." I wanted to argue. I wanted to shout. But I couldn't. His words, they settled in me like seeds, tiny sparks in the dark. Maybe he was right. Maybe I didn't need her approval. Maybe I didn't need Rion's shadow over my life. Maybe I just needed me. I thanked him quietly. He smiled. "Good. Start tonight. Don't wait for tomorrow. Tomorrow might not wait for you." I wandered home in silence, the night pressing against me. The apartment was empty, echoes of Lena's laughter haunting every corner. I dropped onto the couch, staring at the ceiling. "You're broken," I whispered to myself. But maybe broken can be rebuilt. I spent hours thinking, planning, though it was just fragments in my mind. Get stronger, get smarter, prove everyone wrong. I didn't know how yet. I didn't know where to start. But I knew one thing, I would start. And then I heard a knock at the door. My heart skipped. I thought maybe it was her, apologizing. "Who is it?" I called, my voice still fragile. "Open up," a voice said, unfamiliar. "It's Hamid. Uncle Hamid. I heard about everything. Thought you might need a place to stay tonight." I froze. Uncle Hamid. The man my father had once worked for. The quiet, old man everyone respected. I hesitated, pride and desperation battling inside me. "Come in," I finally said, voice barely steady. He entered, looking around the tiny apartment, eyes settling on me. "You've had a rough night," he said softly. "You have no idea," I muttered. "I might," he said. "But you don't have to face it alone." "Not anymore." We sat in silence for a while. Then he said, "Tell me everything." And I did. Every word, every detail, every heartbreak, every betrayal. My voice shook, my hands trembled, my heart poured out. And he listened. Not judging. Not laughing. Just listening. When I finished, he nodded. Good. That's the first step. Let it out. Now, we start building you back up. One step at a time. Understand? I nodded, exhausted. My life was a ruin. Lena had left, Rayan had won this round, and I had nothing. But for the first time that night, I felt a flicker. A spark. A chance. Yes, I whispered. One step at a time. And for the first time in hours, maybe days, I slept. Not peacefully, but with a purpose forming in the back of my mind. I would rise again. I would survive. I would reclaim what life had taken from me, starting now. The next morning, Uncle Hamid was already up when I stumbled out of bed, still exhausted, still raw. He was sipping tea, calm as ever. You look like hell, he said without looking up. I feel like it too, I muttered, rubbing my eyes. He nodded. Good. That means you're alive. That's step 1. Step 2 is deciding what you're going to do about it. What I'm going to do? I echoed, bitter. I've got nothing left. Lena's gone. Everything I worked for is gone. And you want me to, what? Get revenge? Get rich overnight? Hamid set his cup down. No. Not revenge. Not yet. Step 2 is choosing to stop being helpless. Choosing to stop letting life, people, crush you. You rebuild yourself, starting today. One choice at a time. I frowned. You make it sound so easy. It's not, he said. Nothing worthwhile ever is. But it's better than sitting on the curb, waiting for the world to finish you off. You want to survive? You need a plan. And you need allies. Allies? I asked, skepticism heavy in my voice. Yes, he said. Do you remember Ayan? Ayan? I laughed bitterly. Yeah, my childhood friend. The one who made it big while I, stayed me. That's him, Hamid said. He owes you nothing, but he respects those who work. Go see him. Talk to him. You might be surprised. I hesitated. Pride was a heavy anchor, but I was desperate enough to weigh it. Fine, I said finally. I'll go. Hamid nodded. Good. And remember, this is about you, not Lena. Not Rayan. You. I left his apartment with a strange mix of hope and fear. Ayan's office was sleek, bustling, full of people who smiled at him like he was untouchable. I felt small the moment I stepped in. Rashid? Ayan's voice called from across the room. He turned, eyes widening. Is that really you? I forced a grin. Yeah. It's me. Don't worry, I didn't expect to impress you. He laughed, but it didn't feel like mockery. Man, you look like hell. I've been better, I admitted. Listen. I need help. I need guidance. I don't know how to get out of this. This, he asked, raising an eyebrow. I swallowed. Everything. My life. My career. My pride. He leaned back, studying me. All right, so you want a second chance? Yes, I said immediately. I don't care what it takes. I need to start over. I need to be someone who can't be humiliated again. Someone who can stand on his own. Ayan nodded slowly. I like that. Good. That's the first step. But it won't be easy. It's going to hurt. A lot. You'll fail. You'll feel small every day. You'll want to quit. I'll do it anyway, I said firmly. All right then, he said, a small smile appearing. Let's start tomorrow. For now, I want you to rest. Tonight, think about why you're doing this. Your reason will keep you going when everything else wants to stop you. I nodded, swallowing hard. Pride and fear battled inside me. Tomorrow, I whispered. Tomorrow, I start. The next day, Ayan put me through hell. Pick up that ledger, he barked, tossing a stack of old accounting books at me. I caught them awkwardly. Wait, what am I doing? You're learning, he said sharply. You want to rise? You need skills. Knowledge. Discipline. Start paying attention. I sighed, flipping through the numbers. I don't even understand half of this. Good, he said. Then you learn. You start now. Mistakes will happen. That's part of the process. You want to be weak? You'll stay weak. You want to be strong? Then push through. Hours passed. My hands cramped, my eyes burned, my head felt like it was about to split. I can't do this. I shouted at one point, slamming the book down. You can, Ayan said calmly. You're just afraid. Afraid of failure, afraid of pain, afraid of looking small again. That's the old you. The one who stayed small. Let him die. Now. I swallowed. Pain burned in my muscles, my chest, my soul. But his words, they hit something deep inside me. Maybe he was right. I had been living scared, weak, waiting for life to hand me mercy. I wasn't going to wait anymore. Okay, I muttered, picking up the book again. I'll try. Again. Good, he said, clapping me on the shoulder. Again and again. Until it becomes who you are. Days blurred into nights. I barely ate. I barely slept. I made mistakes, counting errors, miscalculations, clumsy presentations, but each time, Ayan corrected me, pushed me harder. You're slow, he said one night, throwing a graph at me. Stop thinking. Start doing. Stop doubting yourself. Do it. I can't. I cried, frustration cracking my voice. Yes, you can, he snapped. And you will. Because you have to. You're not living for her anymore. You're not living for Rayan. You're living for you. Own it. The anger inside me flared. I grabbed the graph, analyzed it, reworked the numbers, and presented it again. Perfect. My first real victory. You see? Ayan said. It hurts, but it works. This is how you rebuild. Pain is the ladder. Climb it. I nodded, chest heaving. I can do this. I will do this. One night, exhausted, I sat on the rooftop, looking at the city lights. I thought about Lena. I thought about Rayan. I thought about the life I had lost. I hate them, I whispered into the night. I hate what they did to me. Good, a voice said beside me. I jumped. Ayan was there, leaning on the railing. Hate can be fuel. Just don't let it consume you. Channel it. I want to rise, I said quietly. I want to be someone they can't ignore. Someone they regret messing with. You will, he said. But remember, it's not just about them. It's about becoming the man you should have always been. Everything else will follow. I nodded, feeling something ignite inside me. Pain had carved space, but fire had taken root. I could feel it in my fists, my jaw, my heart. Something new was growing, a determination that no betrayal, no heartbreak, no poverty could kill. Tomorrow, I whispered to myself, I push harder. No excuses. No pity. No fear. Just me. And as the night wrapped around the city, I realized this was the turning point. My life had been shattered, yes. Lena had left, Rayan had laughed, and I had fallen. But now, I was choosing to rise. To fight. To transform. I didn't know how high I could go yet, or what I would become, but I knew one thing, the man I was yesterday was gone. He had died in that apartment, listening to Lena laugh at him. And the man who would rise from these ashes, he would never be small again. I stepped into the conference room, the polished floors reflecting my own reflection. For the first time in years, I didn't feel small. Not like that broken man who listened to Lena mock me in our apartment. Not like the man who had slept on the curb, wondering if life was worth living. Ayan was already there, reviewing documents. "You're late," he said without looking up. "I know," I muttered. "I got lost in thought." He glanced at me, sharp and piercing. Lost in thought? Or lost in pride? Remember, pride doesn't pay bills. Discipline does. Focus. I nodded. I'm focused. More than ever. Good, he said. Because today we meet investors. This is your first step toward real power. Not just money, but influence. Don't mess it up. I swallowed hard. I won't. The investors arrived, their eyes cold and calculating. Lena and Rayan could never have imagined this room, this energy, this authority. I stepped forward, holding my head high. "Gentlemen," I began, voice steady. "Thank you for meeting with us. Let me show you why this venture deserves your confidence." Ayan whispered, "Remember, confidence, not arrogance." I nodded subtly, then dove into the presentation. Numbers, projections, strategies, all laid out meticulously. I could feel their attention shifting, the air thick with respect and curiosity. Afterward, in the elevator, Ayan leaned close. "You did well," he said. "They bought it. They're impressed." I allowed myself a small smile. "It feels different. Powerful. Alive." "Good," he said. "That feeling? You bottle it. Let it remind you what happens when you stop being weak." I laughed quietly. I never want to feel small again. A few weeks later, I saw her, Lena, by chance at a high-end cafe. She was draped in designer clothes, laughing, sipping champagne. Rayan sat beside her, his arm around her, smiling like he owned the world. I felt my stomach twist. I wanted to turn away, to run, to yell, to shake her and scream, "Look at me now." Instead, I stayed. I watched silently, a stranger in the same world I had once dreamed of sharing with her. "You're staring," Ayan whispered beside me. "I can't help it," I admitted. He chuckled softly. "Don't. Not yet. You're rising, not attacking. Patience." I nodded, forcing myself to focus on the hum of the cafe, on the people around me, on the life I was building. Days turned into months. I worked harder than ever. I learned every detail of the business world, finance, strategy, negotiations. Mistakes were brutal, but I adapted. I pushed through exhaustion, through frustration, through fear. Every failure became a lesson. Every setback, fuel. "You're improving," Ayan said one night as we reviewed quarterly reports. "Much faster than I expected." "I have to," I said. "I'm not the man I used to be." "I can't be." "You mean the man Lena destroyed?" he asked sharply. I flinched. "Yes. But it's not just her. It's every person who underestimated me. Every time I was laughed at or ignored, it built me. Slowly. But I'm rising now. They'll see." "They already do," he said. "You can feel it. The change." I could. I felt respect in my meetings, in the nods of colleagues, in subtle glances from people who once dismissed me. Power wasn't just money, it was influence, authority, and self-respect. And I was taking it back, one step at a time. Then, one evening, an invitation arrived at my office. An exclusive business gala. A high-profile charity event. I scanned the names: celebrities, politicians, billionaires. And there she was. "Lena. You're serious?" I asked Ayan, holding up the invitation. "Of course," he said. "If you want to show her what she lost, this is your stage." I swallowed hard. "I don't know if I'm ready." "You're ready," he said firmly. "You've been ready for months. This is just visibility. You don't need to confront her. Let your presence do it." The night of the gala, I dressed sharply, tailored suit, clean shoes, controlled posture. Every detail mattered. I entered, and the room seemed to shift. Heads turned. Whispers followed. I wasn't invisible anymore. And then I saw them. Lena, radiant and oblivious. Rayan, smug and confident. They didn't recognize me at first. They never expected to see me here, in this world. I walked past them, not a word, just a nod. But I saw the flicker in her eyes. Confusion. Recognition. And for a split second, hesitation. Rayan smirked, clearly unaware of the storm sitting across the room. Lena didn't smile anymore. She didn't even look at him for a moment. Her gaze found mine, and I held it, steady, calm, unshakable. Ayan leaned beside me. "See? The fire hasn't gone out." I nodded subtly. "No. It hasn't. Not even close." We mingled, I shook hands, I smiled, I charmed. Every interaction was calculated. Every laugh, subtle. Every glance, precise. I could feel her watching me. I didn't need to approach. I didn't need to speak. My transformation spoke for itself. "Rashid," Ayan whispered later, "you've become unrecognizable." In a good way. "I've had to be," I said quietly. "The man she knew, the man she laughed at, he's dead. He'll never return." Hours later, as the gala wound down, I noticed Lena slip away. She didn't say goodbye. She didn't try to reach me. I didn't care. What mattered was the seed planted in her mind. The man she abandoned, the man she mocked, had returned, stronger, smarter, untouchable. I leaned against the balcony, looking at the city lights, feeling the cool wind. "This is just the beginning," I whispered to myself. This is only the start." Ayan joined me silently, nodding. "And when the time comes, she'll remember every word she ever said." "Yes," I said, eyes dark but controlled. "And she'll regret it. Deeply. But not because I seek revenge. Because she'll finally understand what she lost. We stood there for a long moment. The city hummed below, oblivious to the storm of emotions brewing above. I could feel the old rage, the betrayal, the humiliation, still present, still sharp, but it no longer controlled me. I had learned patience, strategy, discipline. Power wasn't about instant revenge. It was about survival, dominance, and transformation. I had survived the fall. And now, I was rising from the ashes. The first time I felt the sharp pain in my chest, I ignored it. I was in a meeting, presenting a strategy to a group of investors. My hand shook slightly, but I smiled, finished the presentation flawlessly, and collected their applause. Later, alone in my office, the pain hit again, deeper, sharper, insistent. Rashid, Ayan said when I met him after the meeting, concern etched on his face. You look off. Are you feeling okay? I'm fine, I said quickly, forcing a grin. Just a little tired. Meetings are exhausting. You're lying, he said bluntly. I know you. This isn't just tiredness. I laughed, though it sounded hollow. Don't worry. I'll manage. Always have, always will. He frowned. You've been saying that for months. You're pushing too hard. You need a break. I don't have time for breaks, I muttered. Not now. Not ever. Every second counts. I've waited too long to be where I am. You're going to regret that, he said softly. I didn't answer. I had no room for regret. Not yet. The following week, the pain worsened. Nights were the worst. I would lie awake, hand clutching my chest, heart hammering, mind racing. I didn't tell anyone, not Ayan, not Hamid, not even myself fully. Vulnerability was a luxury I couldn't afford. Rashid, I whispered into the dark, alone in my apartment. Not now. I can't. I swallowed the fear, forcing myself to rise, to train, to plan, to keep building the empire I had started from scratch. Illness would not be the one thing that broke me. Eventually, the pain became unbearable. I visited Dr. Farouk, a calm, precise man with eyes that saw through pretense. He examined me carefully, silent for a long moment. You're under a lot of stress, he said finally, voice soft. But there's more. What do you mean? I asked, unease tightening in my chest. He met my gaze. I'm afraid it's serious. Your heart, it's weak. You may have months. Possibly less. You need treatment, rest. I laughed bitterly, shaking my head. Rest? You think I can just rest? I have a life to rebuild, enemies to outsmart, a world to conquer. I don't have months. I have work to do. Dr. Farouk's eyes narrowed. And yet, if you keep ignoring this, there may be no world left to conquer. Listen to me, Rashid. This is not just about ambition. It's about survival. I nodded, swallowing hard. I didn't speak. Inside, panic collided with rage. How could my body betray me now, just as I was rising? I decided to keep it secret. Not from pride, not from ego, but from necessity. Weakness could not show. Not to Ayan, not to anyone. I'm fine, I told Ayan the next morning. He frowned, unconvinced. You sure? Yes, I said firmly. Nothing to worry about. Let's focus on the meeting. He sighed but dropped it. He trusted me enough to leave it alone, for now. Days turned into weeks. I continued working, pushing harder than ever. Meetings, deals, presentations, I was unstoppable externally, though inside, each heartbeat reminded me of my fragility. One evening, late in the office, Ayan turned to me. "You've changed, Rashid. The man I met months ago? Broken, unsure, he's gone. The new man, he's relentless. Scary, even." I smiled faintly. Good. I want him to be scary. Not for others, just for myself. So I never forget how far I came. How fragile I almost was. He raised an eyebrow. Fragile, huh? You don't even admit it to yourself, do you? No, I said firmly. I can't. Vulnerability, that's not an option. You're hiding something, he said. I can see it. And someday, it will hit you, and you'll have to face it. I'll face it, I said quietly. When the time comes. Not before. At night, alone in the penthouse apartment I had finally earned, I stared out at the city. Lights reflected off the glass, a beautiful illusion of stability and control. Yet inside, my heart ached, not from heartbreak, not from betrayal, but from fear I refused to name. Rashid, I whispered, placing a hand on my chest. You've built this empire, but you can't build forever if you're gone. I gritted my teeth, forcing myself to move. I trained late, worked late, never let anyone see the weakness. I refused to let illness define me, just as I refused to let Lena define me years ago. Then came the news of Rayyan's legal troubles. Fraud, corruption, embezzlement, the world he had built on arrogance and greed was unraveling. I watched the headlines quietly, a small, private satisfaction blooming inside me. Lena's world would collapse along with his. Finally, I muttered one night to Ayan. Justice, slowly, quietly. He nodded. And you? You still need to finish your own story first. Don't let anyone or anything derail that. Not even yourself. I won't, I said. But deep down, the illness whispered that it might, not through external enemies, but through time. I began preparing in secret. Letters, instructions, donations, plans of things to set the world right even if I couldn't remain in it. Every gesture was silent, calculated, meaningful. You're planning for the inevitable, Ayan said, noticing my meticulous notes. I am, I said calmly. I can't stop living. Not now. But I can ensure my work, my legacy, continues. He shook his head. Most people would crumble under this. You channel it into power. I have no other choice, I whispered. Weakness isn't allowed anymore. Not for me. And still, I maintained my public facade, strong, confident, unshakable. Investors never knew. Colleagues never suspected. Lena, she never saw. If she ever crossed my path again, she would see only the man I chose to be, unbroken, dominant, untouchable. Yet at night, when the apartment was dark, when the city slept, I felt the weight of time pressing against me. Heartbeats became reminders. Breath became labor. Every mirror reflected my success, yes, but also my fragility. I whispered into the darkness, I will rise, even with this shadow over me. I will finish what I started. And when I'm done, they will remember me. The illness was a secret I carried like armor, like a weapon, like a curse. It reminded me that life could end at any moment, but it also sharpened my focus. Every meeting mattered. Every deal mattered. Every step toward power mattered. I will not let this define me, I said one night to myself. I will define myself. And when it ends, it will not be in vain. And with that, I returned to my work, pushing further than ever, harder than ever, fueled by pain, pride, and purpose. Lena, Rayan, the world, they would not see the weakness. They would only see the man I had become, unstoppable, unbroken, rising from the ashes while the clock silently ticked. I knew the day would come when I had to say goodbye, not just to people, but to the life I had built. The illness, though hidden from everyone, reminded me every morning that time was slipping. Each heartbeat was both a warning and a motivator. Ayan noticed my tension as soon as I walked into the office. "You're quieter than usual," he said, leaning back in his chair. "I'm thinking," I muttered, "about endings and beginnings." He frowned. "Endings?" I met his gaze. "I don't have forever. I can't leave things half done. I need to tie loose ends." Carefully, quietly. He nodded slowly. "I see. You're planning your own exit while building your empire further." Typical Rashid. I allowed a small smile. "I suppose so. But it has to be perfect. If I'm gone, I don't want chaos. I want impact. Legacy." "You're already leaving an impact," he said. "People will remember you. Just make sure it's the way you want." I gritted my teeth. "It has to be. I won't let weakness, not mine, not anyone else's, define my story." That evening, I returned to the penthouse. The city lights shimmered through the windows. Everything I had built, every deal, every investment, every plan, it was all mine now. But the emptiness inside me was heavier than any success. I sat in the leather chair, staring at a letter I had written but hadn't sent. It was addressed to Lena. I didn't intend it as an apology. Not for the heartbreak she caused. Not for the betrayal. It was meant to make her see, finally, what she had lost. I whispered to the dark, "She'll never understand, not fully. But maybe, this will make her feel it." The words were heavy. I folded the paper carefully, placing it in a drawer. It wasn't for her yet. The time had to be right. The next day, Hamid called. "Rashid, are you coming over?" "I'll be there," I said. He met me at his modest home, smiling warmly despite everything. "I hear you've been busy." "I have," I said. "But some things I need guidance on. Some people I can't trust entirely." Hamid nodded. "You've grown fast. But remember, even the strongest need allies. Even the strongest need closure." "Closure?" I echoed, frowning. "Yes," he said. "Before you step into your next stage, you need to say goodbye. Not publicly. Not theatrically. Silently. So you can move forward without regret." I thought about Lena, Rayan, even myself. The man I had been. "Silent goodbyes," I muttered. "I understand." That night, I walked the streets alone. The cold air bit my skin, but I welcomed it. It cleared my mind. I stopped at the park bench where I had first spoken to the old man months ago, the place where despair had shifted into determination. "Rashid," I whispered to the night. "This is it. Time to let go." I thought about my parents, long gone. About my friends who had drifted away. About Lena, the love and betrayal that had ignited the fire inside me. I didn't cry. I didn't scream. I simply acknowledged them all, silently, letting each memory pass like leaves on a river. A few days later, I organized meetings with people who had mattered in my life, loyal colleagues, trusted friends, even small investors who had believed in me when no one else would. I met them individually, thanked them for their loyalty, encouraged them to continue even if I wasn't there. "You've changed everything for me," I said to one. "I couldn't have done it without you." They smiled, a mix of gratitude and respect in their eyes. Some sensed something unspoken, but none pressed. That was the point. Silence was the loudest message. I returned home and found Ayan waiting. "Done?" he asked, casually. "Yes," I said, voice steady. "I've said goodbye," quietly. No drama. No theatrics. Just closure. He nodded. "Good. That's exactly what you needed. Now, you prepare for the next step." I clenched my fists. "The next step?" "Lena." He raised an eyebrow. "You've waited long enough. You've changed enough. Don't waste time." "I won't," I said, determination sharp as a blade. "She will finally see what she lost. But it won't be because I'm angry. It'll be because I built a world she could never have touched." A week later, I received a message from Lena herself. She had heard of my rise through the industry grapevine. She didn't know the details, just the stories, successful deals, strategic moves, whispers of influence. "Rashid," the text read. I heard. Is it true?" I stared at it for a long moment. My first instinct was to ignore it, to erase it. But I typed carefully, every word measured. "Yes," I replied. "It's true. Everything you laughed at. I turned into something real." Her reply came almost instantly. I didn't know. I thought." "I know what you thought," I interrupted silently, not writing. I didn't need to answer her questions. Words weren't necessary. My life, my presence, my success, it spoke louder than anything I could type. That night, I met Ayan on the rooftop. The city lights sparkled below, indifferent to the storms humans carried inside them. "She knows," he said softly. "She'll never admit it, but she knows." I nodded. "Good. She'll feel it. Not because I'm cruel, but because she finally understands what she abandoned." Ayan chuckled lightly. "You've become ruthless. But controlled. That's dangerous. And beautiful." "I've survived too much," I said quietly. "I've lost, I've hurt, I've been humiliated. But I refuse to let that define me. Not now, not ever. I am rising. And she will see it. All of it." In the days that followed, I noticed subtle changes. Colleagues approached me with more respect. Investors listened more attentively. Even minor competitors gave way, recognizing a man who had clawed back from nothing and would not be trifled with. And somewhere in the background, Lena watched. I didn't need to confront her directly. Her presence in my peripheral life, the knowledge that she observed quietly, that she might regret everything, was enough. I whispered into the night one evening, alone in the penthouse. Silent goodbyes aren't for them. They're for me. I let go of the past, of people who hurt me, so I can move forward unbound. Ayan appeared silently, leaning on the railing beside me. "And forward you go," he said. "No one can stop this momentum now." "No," I said. "No one. Not even my own body, not even Lena, not even the memory of betrayal. I will rise, and nothing will hold me back." The city spread beneath us like a living organism, unaware of the silent victories and quiet closures being claimed above. I felt light and heavy, all at once, grief and triumph intertwined. "I've lost," I whispered softly. "But I've also gained. strength, knowledge, discipline, power, and patience. Patience for the moment I choose to reveal everything to those who thought they had defeated me. Ayon's eyes gleamed. Soon, he said. Yes, I murmured. Soon. And in that quiet, I realized the truth. The silent goodbyes had not diminished me. They had freed me. They had allowed me to focus, to sharpen, to rise from the ashes of betrayal, heartbreak, and illness. The world I would show Lena, Rayan, and everyone else, it would be unrecognizable. And I would rise, fully, finally, unstoppable. I didn't plan to run into her. Not yet. But life has a way of throwing reminders in your path, forcing the past to meet the present. I was at a high-profile networking event, a fundraiser with all the big players in the city, investors, politicians, influencers. The kind of place I'd never dreamed of entering a year ago. I adjusted my cufflinks, checked my reflection in the polished chrome wall, and allowed myself a small, satisfied smile. I was no longer the man who had once cowered on the curb, broken and humiliated. And then I saw her. Lena. She was standing near the champagne table, radiant as always, but there was something different this time. A tension in her posture. Her eyes, when they met mine, flickered with recognition, and for the first time, maybe, regret. I felt a rush of emotions, but I didn't let them show. Calm, collected, that was my armor now. Rashid, she said softly, stepping closer, trying for casual. I didn't expect to see you here. I raised an eyebrow, voice measured. Neither did I expect to see you. But it seems the world has its ways. Her lips pressed into a tight line. You've changed. I allowed a small, almost imperceptible smile. I have. Circumstances tend to do that. Can we talk? She asked hesitantly. I shook my head. Not here. Not now. Timing matters. Her eyes narrowed, searching mine. Timing? Yes, I said quietly. Everything has its time. And the time for discussion will come later. For now, I'm busy building a life I don't need permission to live. She opened her mouth to speak, but I didn't wait. I walked past, head high, every step a statement. Every person who watched me, some whispered, some stared, I didn't care. Lena felt the message. That alone was enough. Later that evening, Ayan joined me on the balcony overlooking the gala. You saw her, he said casually. Yes, I admitted. She's here. Watching. Probably wondering how I survived, how I became this man. Ayan chuckled. And? Anne. I don't feel anger, I said quietly. Not the old kind. I feel power. Calm. Focus. I survived her betrayal. I survived Rayan. And now, I rise on my terms. Good, he said. That's what I wanted you to feel. Remember, this isn't revenge yet. It's preparation. Observation. Strategy. I nodded. Strategy. Right. The next few weeks were a delicate game. Every project I led, every deal I closed, every public appearance, I made sure she knew, without directly telling her, that I was no longer the man she could dismiss. One afternoon, my assistant whispered to me, Lena's been asking about your schedule. She wants to meet. I froze. My pulse quickened, but I didn't show it. I see, I muttered. And what do you want me to do? Do you want to see her? The assistant asked. I considered it. Then shook my head. Not yet. Timing matters. Ayan, observing from behind, leaned over. Good decision. Power is patience. Don't rush the unveiling. But Lena couldn't wait. She showed up at my office unannounced one morning, the first time in months. I had been reviewing reports with Ayan, discussing strategy, when she knocked. I opened the door. Lena, I said evenly. I wasn't expecting. I know, she said quickly, cutting me off. I need to speak with you. Just 5 minutes. I gestured to the office, motioning for her to sit. I remained standing. Distance mattered. Authority mattered. Respect mattered. She began, hesitation thick in her voice, I've heard about everything. Your success. Your rise. And I need to understand. I studied her, noting every micro-expression, fear, curiosity, regret. Understand what? I asked quietly. How you did it, she admitted. How you survived. How you became this man. I smiled faintly. It wasn't luck. Not chance. It was pain. Betrayal. Hunger. Desperation. And I used every ounce of it. To rise. To rebuild. To survive. Her lips parted, silent, almost unable to respond. I continued, voice firm. I didn't wait for anyone to save me. Not you. Not Rian. Not fate. And now, I am here. On my terms. Fully. She swallowed, eyes glistening. I didn't know. I know, I said calmly. And you should have. You had your chance. But I moved on. I transformed. And that is the difference between us. She looked down, ashamed, perhaps realizing how much she had underestimated me. I came here to apologize, she said finally. I was cruel. I held up a hand. Apologies are meaningless now. Actions matter. You'll see, in time, the consequences of your choices. But I don't seek vengeance. I seek closure. And my life, my focus, will not be derailed by regret or resentment. Her hands trembled slightly. I never wanted it to end like this. I shook my head slowly. It ended like it had to. I rose because of the fall. You'll understand that eventually, though it won't change what was lost. Weeks passed, and the game of observation continued. Lena would appear at events, making polite conversation with colleagues, occasionally glancing in my direction. I maintained composure, letting my presence alone speak volumes. One night, at a charity gala hosted by the city's elite, she approached me again, this time bold enough to speak directly. Rashid, she said, voice steady, I need closure. Please, can we have dinner? I studied her, weighing every gesture, every nuance. Dinner? I asked. To talk about the past? Yes, she said. I need to understand why I lost you. And maybe, how I hurt you. I exhaled slowly. You'll understand. But not tonight. Not yet. Timing matters. She frowned. Timing? I smiled faintly. Yes. I survived the past. I've risen above it. The moment for discussion will come when I choose. And not before. Her shoulders sagged slightly, a silent acknowledgement. She realized she didn't control the narrative anymore. I did. I turned away, walking toward the balcony, feeling the night air wash over me. The city below shimmered with possibilities, with whispers of future power, with the promise of final closure. Lena watched silently, her presence a reminder of the man I had been and the man I had become. Ayan joined me moments later, leaning on the railing. "She'll remember," he said quietly. "Every choice. Every laugh she mocked. Every word she underestimated. And when she does, it will be too late." "Yes," I murmured, eyes fixed on the skyline. "Too late." She underestimated the fire she lit. She forgot that pain can forge strength. That betrayal can fuel transformation. That a man who falls can rise, unstoppable. Days later, I walked past her at a corporate gala without a word. She looked at me, hope and fear flickering in her eyes. I nodded once, almost imperceptibly. That was all the acknowledgement she would get. My presence alone told the story, quiet, controlled, deliberate. I whispered to myself, the past is here, but I am above it. Stronger. Smarter. Untouchable. And she will finally understand the cost of underestimating me. Ayan appeared beside me. "Soon," he said. "The final act approaches." "Yes," I said. "Soon." And for the first time, I felt truly untethered. The past was present, yes. But it no longer held me down. I had risen, silently, steadily, and the world, Lena, Rayan, everyone who had doubted me, would witness the full force of the man I had become. The past had returned. But I was ready. The day finally arrived. I had orchestrated it carefully, meticulously. Everything, the timing, the setting, the witnesses, was planned down to the smallest detail. This wasn't about revenge in the childish sense. This was about revelation. Lena needed to see, to feel, to understand exactly what she had lost. She didn't know I would be there first. I arrived at the event early, an exclusive business dinner, the kind where billionaires and politicians rubbed elbows. I chose my seat strategically, center of the room, under the lights, visible to everyone. Influence and authority had a presence of their own, and I intended to radiate it. Ayan appeared behind me. "You ready?" he asked softly. "As ready as I'll ever be," I replied, straightening my tie. "This isn't for her. It's for me, and for everyone who doubted me." He nodded. "Good. Remember, calm, confident, commanding. Let the moment speak for itself." I took a deep breath. Lena arrived, elegant, radiant, completely unaware that the man she had once mocked now held the room's attention. She scanned the crowd, likely searching for familiar faces. And then she saw me. Her eyes widened. Shock. Recognition. And maybe fear. "Rashid," as she whispered, voice trembling slightly. I didn't answer immediately. I let her take in the sight of me, the tailored suit, the composed posture, the aura of success that demanded respect. Every detail was intentional. "You've changed," she said finally, words caught in her throat. "Yes," I said quietly. "I have. Pain changes people. Betrayal changes people. And hunger, real hunger, changes people too." She looked down, shame flickering across her face. I didn't know. I never imagined." I interrupted, calm, controlled. "You didn't imagine because you chose not to see. You chose to mock, to abandon, to pursue what seemed easier. And that choice defined everything." Her lips trembled. I never wanted. I know, I said, voice low but steady. And that's exactly the point. It wasn't about you wanting. It was about me surviving. Rising. Becoming someone who can't be dismissed. Someone you'll never reach again. She opened her mouth, and for a moment, I almost let her speak. Almost. But silence, I realized, was more powerful. Her discomfort, the unease that flickered across her face, it was my revelation manifest. The host approached, and I took a moment to shake hands, speak to other guests, laugh lightly at a joke. I could feel her watching, anxiety sharpening every movement I made. The transformation wasn't just internal, it was external, undeniable, commanding. Later, when the dinner ended, I allowed myself a private conversation with her in a quiet hallway. The chandeliers glimmered above us, casting shadows that seemed to dance in rhythm with my pulse. "You've built all this," she said quietly, gesturing vaguely. "The success, the power, it's yours." "Yes," I said simply. "Every step, every sleepless night, every struggle, you never saw it. You mocked me while I built it. And now, you see it too late." She flinched, swallowing hard. I never realized. I never thought. I leaned slightly closer, voice low, deliberate. "You never thought because you didn't care. You left, pursued comfort, pursued Rayan. You assumed I'd stay small forever. You assumed I'd break. You were wrong." Her eyes glistened with unshed tears. I hurt you," she whispered. "Yes," I said calmly. "And now you feel the consequences. Not because I sought vengeance, but because life, karma, has a way of teaching lessons. Pain doesn't come from me. Pain comes from what you lost." Her hands shook. "Rashid. I want. I don't know what to say." "You don't need to say anything," I said softly. "You need to feel. Understand. And then, move forward." That's what I did. I moved forward. I survived. I rose. And now, you finally see it. That is the difference between us. She fell silent, a heavy weight pressing on her chest. She couldn't argue. Words couldn't undo the years of neglect, the mockery, the underestimation. She was witnessing the full force of the man she had abandoned, and it was overwhelming. I turned slightly, allowing her one last glance, letting the moment linger. "Remember this," I said quietly, not just to her, but to the universe. I survived the betrayal. I rose from the ashes. And I did it alone. You don't get to rewrite the past. You only get to witness the outcome." She nodded slowly, tears spilling down her cheeks. I understand now. I really do." "Good," I said. "Then we are done here. No more words. No more apologies. Just acknowledgement of the truth. That is all that matters." She swallowed, voice breaking. I'm sorry. Truly." "I know," I said calmly. "And your apology doesn't change the past. But it marks the moment you finally see reality. That's enough." That night, after she left, Ayan appeared at my side. "You handled that perfectly," he said quietly. "Not revenge, just revelation. Maximum impact, zero regret." I nodded, exhaustion and satisfaction mingling. "It feels right. No anger, no malice. Just truth. Finally." He smiled. "She'll never forget this. Not in a million years." "No," I said, voice low. She won't. And I won't either. Every betrayal, every heartbreak, every moment of humiliation, it all led here. And I finally control the narrative. In the days that followed, I noticed subtle shifts. Colleagues, competitors, investors, they treated me differently. Respect, deference, curiosity, it was everywhere. And Lena? She kept her distance. Polite, distant, careful. But I knew. She watched, privately, silently, measuring every word, every move. I allowed a small smile when I realized the truth. I didn't need her approval, her presence, or her love anymore. The man she had abandoned, laughed at, underestimated, he had risen. And she had witnessed it firsthand. I whispered to the empty office one night, alone, overlooking the city. This is what happens when a man survives, when a man rises. You cannot stop him. You cannot unmake him. You can only watch and regret. Ayan joined me silently. And what now? He asked. What now? I said slowly, eyes fixed on the skyline, is living. Fully. Freely. And finishing what I started. No distractions. No weaknesses. Just me. Rising, unstoppable, and finally at peace. For the first time in months, I felt the weight of the past lift. Betrayal had sculpted me. Heartbreak had fueled me. Pain had sharpened me. And now, the confrontation had revealed the truth. Lena had seen what she lost. The world had seen what I had become. And in that quiet, powerful moment, I realized I wasn't just surviving anymore. I was thriving. I was untouchable. I was free. I sat alone in my penthouse one late evening, the city lights stretching endlessly below me. Everything I had built, every deal, every step up from the ashes of betrayal, stared back at me like a silent witness. I had survived Lena, Rayan, humiliation, and even my own body's weakness. And now, I had control, influence, and clarity I never imagined possible. Ayan joined me, leaning casually on the railing. You've done it, he said quietly. You've risen. And not just in business. You've mastered yourself. I nodded slowly, taking a sip of water. It's strange, I said. I expected victory to feel loud, triumphant. But it's quiet. Steady. Internal. That's what matters now. He smirked. You always were more philosophical than people gave you credit for. Or maybe, you just had no choice but to think deeply. Maybe both, I admitted. Every betrayal, every obstacle, every moment of weakness taught me something. I'm stronger because of it, not despite it. I thought of Lena. She had seen me. She had felt the consequences of her choices. But there was no satisfaction in gloating, no thrill in revenge. That part of me had disappeared long ago. What mattered now was legacy. What mattered was what I would leave behind, how I would be remembered, not for anger, but for perseverance, for rising despite everything. Ayan's voice pulled me from my thoughts. You've changed, Rashid. Completely. And people follow that change naturally. You don't need to push. They follow because they respect it, fear it, admire it. All at once. I let a small smile escape. I never wanted admiration. Not really. I wanted survival. I wanted to be untouchable. I wanted to define myself. Admiration is a side effect. He chuckled softly. Fair enough. But it's a powerful side effect. A week later, I hosted a gathering of people who had supported me, the loyal ones, the ones who had stood by me when others laughed or abandoned me. Hamid was there, smiling warmly. "You've built something remarkable," he said. "Not just wealth, not just power, but respect, loyalty. That's rare." "Thank you," I said humbly. "I couldn't have done it without all of you." Every person who believed in me, even a little, contributed to this. I didn't rise alone. One of the younger investors spoke up. "Rashid, how did you do it? You went from nothing to this. How did you survive everything?" I looked around the room, meeting every gaze. Pain teaches you more than comfort ever could. Betrayal, hardship, failure, they sharpen your mind, your will, your heart. And if you let them, they make you unstoppable. Ayan nodded beside me. He's right. He's lived it. Later, after everyone left, I found myself staring at the city from my balcony again. It was quiet, peaceful. I thought about my parents, long gone, who would have been proud if they were here. I thought about Lena, who had finally witnessed my rise and understood what she had lost. I thought about Rayan, whose arrogance had crumbled under his own mistakes. I whispered into the night, everything is as it should be. The past, it shaped me. The present, it empowers me. The future, it's mine to define. Ayan appeared silently, leaning on the railing next to me. "You ever think about what comes next?" he asked. "Legacy," I said immediately. "That's all that matters. How I'm remembered, what I've built, the lessons I leave behind. Not just money or influence, but strength. Integrity. Perseverance. That's what outlives us." He nodded thoughtfully. "And Lena?" I exhaled slowly. "She'll remember. Not in anger, not in hatred, but in understanding. That's enough. I don't need more from her. Closure is silent, subtle, and absolute." The next day, I made a few private calls. Donations to charities, instructions for investments, advice for protégés. Every move was calculated to leave a lasting impact, to ensure that even if I was gone, my presence, my influence, my lessons would endure. "You're leaving quite a blueprint," Ayan said quietly. "Planning for every angle." "I have to," I said. "Time is finite. I've survived too much to leave things incomplete. Every step I take now matters." "Even the illness?" he asked cautiously. I smiled faintly, touching my chest. "Even this. It reminds me that life is fragile. Every heartbeat, every moment, every decision counts. That's why I move deliberately. That's why I leave a legacy worth remembering." That evening, I received a text from Lena. Short, hesitant, "I hope you're happy. I finally understand. Truly. Rashid." I stared at it for a long time. My fingers hovered over the keyboard. Did I reply? Should I reply? But I knew the answer. I typed carefully, deliberately, "I am." That's all that matters. I hit send and set the phone down. Closure didn't need conversation. Closure didn't need justification. It was final. Silent. Absolute. Weeks passed. The world kept moving. Deals, meetings, expansions. I continued my work, my influence growing quietly but steadily. And with each achievement, I felt a sense of calm satisfaction, the kind that only comes after surviving storms you thought would drown you. One night, alone, I reflected. I was broken, I whispered to myself. Betrayed, humiliated, overlooked. But I survived. I rose. I became what I needed to become. And I finally control my life. My choices. My legacy. Ayan joined me again. You've become more than I expected. More than anyone expected. I had no choice, I said. The man I used to be, he didn't survive betrayal. I either transformed or I disappeared. And I chose transformation. Absolute, relentless transformation. He smiled. And now, you're free. Free of the past, free of fear, free of regret. I nodded slowly. Yes. Free. Months later, at a private celebration for a successful merger, I watched the room carefully. Friends, colleagues, supporters, they laughed, congratulated each other, admired success. And somewhere in the crowd, Lena appeared, subdued, quiet, respectful. No confrontation, no bitterness. She simply observed, finally understanding. I felt a calm satisfaction. Not vindictive, not cruel. Just quiet assurance that the truth had been seen. That lessons had been learned. That I had risen completely, unshaken, untouchable. I whispered to the night, this is my legacy. Not wealth. Not revenge. Not dominance. But survival, transformation, and strength. That is what endures. That is what lives on. Ayan leaned beside me, quietly. You've done it. All of it. Yes, I said softly. All of it. And now, it's time to live. Fully. Freely. Without the shadows of the past pulling me back. I've earned this. I finally allowed myself a rare smile, genuine and unburdened. The past, the betrayal, the heartbreak, the humiliation, was no longer chains around me. It was a foundation. A catalyst. A reminder that pain can be transformed into power. That weakness can become strength. That heartbreak can become purpose. And with that thought, I realized I wasn't just alive. I was fully, completely, unstoppable. The world had tested me. Life had tried to break me. Lena had underestimated me. Rayan had mocked me. But I had survived everything and transformed it into something extraordinary. I raised my glass silently to the city below, to the people who had mattered, to the trials that had shaped me. To survival, I whispered. To transformation. To legacy. And in that quiet, powerful moment, I finally felt the weight lift completely. I never imagined I'd be writing this chapter from a place of absence, but life has its cruel poetry. The illness I had hidden, the heartbeat I had fought to control, it finally caught up with me. And yet, even now, even in death, the world would witness the full measure of what I had become. I imagined the room, friends, colleagues, acquaintances, even those who had doubted me. And there she was, Lena. Standing at the edge of the crowd, eyes wide, lips pressed tight. The woman who had abandoned me, who had laughed at my poverty, who had chosen Rayan over me, now faced the reality of my absence. Ayan stood near her, stoic as ever. I felt his presence, even now, as if he were channeling my voice through the silence. You should have seen this coming, I whispered in the quiet of my own mind. This is the consequence of every choice. The ultimate lesson. The funeral began quietly, formal and respectful. The speaker, a close associate, outlined my accomplishments, my rise from nothing, my strategic brilliance, the empire I had built. Words I had earned, words that Lena couldn't ignore. I can't believe he's gone, one of my early investors muttered, shaking his head. He was unstoppable. I allowed myself a mental smile. Unstoppable. Even in death, the title remained accurate. Lena's gaze met mine in memory. She looked smaller somehow, humbled, aware of every moment she had dismissed, every opportunity she had squandered. I imagined her voice breaking as she whispered my name, even if the world around her remained silent. After the formalities, Ayan approached her. "Rashid, he wanted you to see," he said softly. She turned to him, confused. "See what?" "He wanted you to feel," Ayan replied quietly. "To understand the depth of everything you missed. Not with anger, not with revenge, but with truth. That's why you're here. To witness the man you abandoned. And now, the truth is final." Her eyes welled up. I never realized. I thought. You thought, I interjected silently in her mind, that I would stay small forever. That my poverty would define me. That betrayal could break me. You were wrong. And now, it's too late. She fell silent, tears rolling down her cheeks. Regret, humiliation, and understanding collided in her expression. She couldn't apologize, not fully, not anymore. But she felt the weight of the loss, the absence of what she had discarded, the reality of the man she had underestimated. After the service, I imagined the whispers behind her. "Did you see him?" one woman murmured. "The empire he built, from nothing. Incredible." "Yes," another replied. "And Lena, she's realizing what she lost. You can see it in her eyes." I allowed a faint smile. It was enough. Not cruelty. Not triumph. Just acknowledgement. The final lesson delivered without theatrics, without confrontation. Ayan appeared by my side as the crowd thinned. "Closure," he said softly. "Yes," I whispered. "Even in death, closure is possible." She sees, she feels, and she finally understands. That's all that matters. Later, at the private gathering afterward, friends and colleagues shared memories of me, laughter, determination, perseverance. They spoke of my triumphs, of the obstacles I had overcome, of the legacy I had left. Each word was a silent echo of the man I had been, the man I had become. "Rashid's story, it's unbelievable," one young associate said. "He survived everything and built this. No one can deny him." "No one," Ayan agreed quietly. "Not even those who tried to underestimate him." And Lena? She remained on the periphery, watching, absorbing, understanding. She didn't speak. She couldn't. Words would have been empty. She simply felt the weight of what she had lost, the consequences of every choice that had led her to this moment. I imagined myself standing near her in spirit, voice calm, unwavering. "You see now, Lena. You see the man I became. You see the life you could have shared, the love you could have honored, the loyalty you could have embraced. But you didn't. And now, it's final. No words, no actions, can rewrite this." Tears streamed down her face. I'm sorry," she whispered. But I heard it differently. I heard recognition, understanding, the acknowledgement that the lesson had been learned. That was enough. Ayan placed a hand gently on her shoulder. "He doesn't need your apology. He only wanted you to understand. That's why you're here. You understand now." She nodded slowly, voice broken. "Yes. I understand." As the night drew on, I imagined the city below, twinkling lights, lives continuing, oblivious to the closure unfolding in a private hall. I thought about the journey, the betrayal, the heartbreak, the illness, the rise, the confrontation, the silent victories. Each step had led to this moment. Legacy, I whispered to myself. It isn't just wealth. It isn't just influence. It isn't revenge. It's survival, transformation, and truth. That is what endures. Ayan nodded silently beside me, as if hearing the unspoken affirmation. He achieved everything, he said quietly. Yes, I whispered. Everything. The last guests departed. Lena lingered for a moment, uncertain, hesitant. She turned to Ayan. I just want him to know. I finally understood. Truly. Ayan nodded. He does. In ways you can't even imagine. That understanding, it's the closure he wanted. He's at peace. And so can you be, now that you see clearly. She took a deep breath, composed herself, and walked away. I imagined her shoulders straighter, head held higher, carrying the weight of knowledge but finally free from doubt and denial. I whispered to the empty room. The past, it shaped me. Betrayal, heartbreak, humiliation, they forged me. But the present is calm, deliberate, and unshakable. And the future, it is legacy. Alone, I reflected on the transformation. The boy who had once cowered before ridicule, who had been mocked for poverty, who had loved blindly and been abandoned, he no longer existed. In his place stood a man forged in fire, refined through pain, unbroken by illness, betrayal, or heartbreak. Even in absence, my story had been told. Even in death, my rise, my survival, my triumph had been witnessed. And Lena, finally, painfully, irrevocably, understood what she had lost. I whispered one final thought to the night, calm, resolute, satisfied. I survived. I transformed. I rose. And now, even in death, I am untouchable, unbroken, remembered. Closure is mine. Legacy is mine. And everything else is irrelevant. Ayan appeared silently one last time. He's complete, he said softly, voice full of reverence. Yes, I replied in thought. Complete. Free. At peace. And above all, unstoppable. The world moved on outside, unaware of the lessons, the closure, the revelations. But inside, every quiet observer, especially Lena, carried the memory of the man who had risen from nothing, endured everything, and finally claimed his ultimate victory, peace, understanding, and legacy. Even in death, I had one.